Hey guys, I wanted to kind of chat a little bit about the recent layoffs in from Microsoft. I mentioned in one of my videos, at kind of like the last few minutes, um, telling you guys about my thoughts about the whole situation in brief. Right, I didn't go into full detail. I may not like so to kind of put things into perspective, I like Bethesda. I like Bethesda's game for the most part, right? I like Skyrim, like Oblivion, like Morrowind, whatever, right? I haven't played Fallout 3. I haven't really played it, whatever. Um, I haven't really played it yet. I do own it, so maybe I'll do a playthrough on it. Um, but I mentioned in the video, and I'll kind of paraphrase here. Um, I may not have liked um may not like some of the decisions that Bethesda or Zenimax has made, but I don't want people to lose their job over it. And that's just how I feel, right? When you're trying to turn a game around, which is what the ESO devs have done, or at least trying to do, they were heading in the right direction, but now half their team is gone. Kind of like what happened to Bungie, where I don't know what's going to happen to ESO. Um, I don't know if they can give us the same um well, I say quality content as kind of a loose term. Um the same updates, right? What they were planning to do under new management, I don't know. My personal thing is I didn't want most of these people to lose their jobs. They were at least trying under the new management to trying because I was enjoying myself. I was enjoying the new Dragon Knight changes. I was enjoying the new two-handed weapon changes. I know they were attempting. I know they were going to do the Warden and Arcanist and all that. The other classes. But I even mentioned in my video, or it was more of a let's play, but I was just talking about it in brief because that's what you do in a let's play. You talk about things. And it was related, right? It was related. I was playing Skyrim and related. Even though I know they were doing well, or they were doing right, trying to listen to the community. The caveat to all this is, or the opposite end of it is that I cannot excuse what they have done for years. And that's where I'm divided. I've never met Gina Bruno or or whatever his name is, whatever that other guy's name is, Finnegan's. I don't know. I don't know them. I've never met them. I've never interacted with them. I've always been in my own lane. Like I said, I'm a small content creator. I don't think they're going to really care about me. But I've always been, you know, always been able to speak my own mind. Even though I like is the perfect term for this. I don't love Zenimax. I don't love Bethesda. I like them. I tolerate them. Even though I tolerate Bethesda and Zenimax as a whole, I cannot excuse the behavior that they have done. And people seem to really just um cope with this. They think, oh well, Bethesda's the same company. The Bethesda's this. Bethesda's doing good. A little too late for that, in my opinion. And I know that sounds harsh to say. I'm not the one to say, yes, a lot of people are heartbroken when your whole life is making ESO content. Of course, you're gonna feel bad. But I've never really had a strong, bond with ESO. I'm not an MMO person. Bethesda and ZeniMax specifically have not been the same company for years. It's been 11 years since well, 12 years since ESO, 11 years since Fallout 4. I'm playing Fallout 4 right now, enjoying myself, doing a blind playthrough of it, but all I am noticing is that it is just a Call of Duty prototype. That's how I would describe it. And I can see why Witcher 3 beat it out when it came to the game of the year discussion. If you're calling yourself an RPG, and this is one of my biggest gripes with Bethesda specifically, is that when you're going into the category and calling yourself an RPG and you're competing with other titles, it's going to be very hard to compete with that. Witcher 3, New Vegas, Baldur's Gate 3. These are titles that have RPG stamped all over them. And Skyrim doesn't have any RPG mechanics. You can act as if there are RPG mechanics, but you have to mod the game in order to make it a true RPG. And you actually have to use mods, which use mods in order to have that RPG style, right? I don't mind the mods, but when you're calling yourself an RPG, first of all, Skyrim's not an RPG. I'm just gonna say it outright. It's not an RPG. People act like and role play their characters and do certain things. That is different from actually being an actual RPG and actually have choices and consequences added to your game. But and that's another thing is that when you're role playing, like Gopher or I don't know, you can't think of a couple people that role play. That's one thing, role playing your character and stuff like that. But when you're calling your game a role playing game, that's when it's going to be a little bit difficult because people are expecting a role playing game. All in New Vegas was a perfect example of a role playing game for the most part. You could kill everybody you didn't like. You could make choices. You could call people an asshole, and ain't no one going to bat an eyelid. Uh Daggerfall. Daggerfall was a clear cut example of an RPG. And, there were choices and consequences. You couldn't join every faction. You joined one faction, you were immediately locked out of another faction. You, you couldn't enter walls as a werewolf or vampire. Or at least, I think it was both. I can't remember. Um, or like even if you did, and if you committed a crime, there was a good chance the guards would attack you. Just attack you outright. They wouldn't even give you a chance to explain yourself. It's like, nope, you're dead. That's an RPG. Morrowind was a similar style. Obviously more 3D, three-dimensional, but it was still an RPG for the most part because there were choices and consequences. You could choose to do things. As years went on, your paths and choices became more linear and more or less diverse and less diverse. And that has been my biggest thing about Bethesda in recent years. They have become more mainstream and wanted to please a broader audience. So, am I sad about half the ESO team being, essentially shellacked, hacked in half? Yes, of course I am. But I'm also not going to pretend that I just didn't see this coming. Because I think over the years that I've played this game and the off and ons that I played this game, I don't think they've had chances and they've decided not to do it. And now all of a sudden, when their team was hacked in half, when the first round of layoffs happened, all of a sudden now they're changing. Kind of a little too late, my dude. And I can think about one thing where I guess I can think of this example where they ended up basically, not really people. I remember there was one live stream that they did, and people were upset, visibly upset. One person said it. I can't remember who it was. I don't remember, but I'm not going to mention names. They said, when you speak of changes, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. When you speak of changes, obviously you're not, you're telling us the change. You're saying we're changing, but you're not really addressing the elephants and the problems at hand. Essentially, is what they were trying to say. It was really what they were saying, and that's the thing, right? Zenimax is notorious for not addressing the issues, and they're listening to the wrong people. For example, there was an incident, and ESO Danny. I'm just going to mention this guy by name. By name, ESO Danny. Obviously, his name is synonymous with ESO now, but whatever. But he had this channel name long before ESO was announced. But I digress. ESO Danny. When Fallout 76 came out, I remember this clearly. He ended up basically hammering Bethesda, and they didn't like that. And that's another thing. They are the most biased company that I've ever met, that I have ever known, yet I am playing their games. Why? I'm not playing Skyrim because of Bethesda. I'm playing Skyrim because I enjoy it. I don't play Oblivion because of Bethesda. I play Oblivion because I like the atmosphere, the music, everything about it. Same with Skyrim. Same with Morrowind. If I played Daggerfall, I feel like I would actually feel the same way. People who cope and say Bethesda is the same company and that they're trying really hard, they're listening to the wrong people. That is my point. They're listening to the wrong fucking people. They've always done this. And they blacklist and blackball people. Well, no, I think blackballing is not the term, but blacklist people and just try to bury people in the dirt for people that they don't agree with and the people that they don't like. What happened to fucking freedom of speech? Look, the video game industry sucks right now. I get that. But do not but the one thing I hate about Bethesda, and excuse me for getting upset, but the one thing I hate about Bethesda is that they seem to not care about their fucking about their fucking fan base. They haven't cared in years. Like, to think about Emil Pagarula, who I mentioned in that one particular video, was that, hey, by the way, Emil, you are so oblivious. Yes, people have misquoted you, but do not go to Twitter and complain and say, oh yeah, people went to the moon and they have been born. Well, that was different. When you're making a video game, and I said this in my video, when you're making a video game, and people expect aliens, because it was basically a No Man's Sky knockoff, people expect things from that. People expect the world to be filled to the brim with life. You're going from this and over here and even over here. On planet, on planet, on planet, on planet, on planet, of course the people expect to have life on the planet. But then all of a sudden, you don't put life on the planet and it's basically empty as fuck. I have seen so much cope that's saying Bethesda is doing okay. Where are they doing fine? Where are they doing fine? Explain that one to me. Where is Zenimax doing fine? I do not kiss the ass of Bethesda or Zenimax for that matter. But again, I don't want people to be fired over bad management and bad decision making. But sometimes things have to be done. I'm not going to cope and say, oh, well, Bethesda's will be fine and everything. No, the fuck they won't. I guarantee you, Microsoft will probably lay some of their staff off too. And if they don't, hey, you know what? Good on them. But the fact that I will say that Microsoft wants money now, wants more money. But I think people cope too much. That's the problem. I think people cope too much in thinking that ESO is going to be all right. I don't think it will. I don't think it'll last unless they can pull a rabbit out of their goddamn ass or a rabbit out of a hat. I don't think it will be fine. I don't think it'll pass another 10 years. Maybe I could be wrong. Who knows? I don't know, man. I at this point, I'm kind of bittersweet about it. I'm bitter that this happened, but I'm also not going to make excuses for the company that was started making those decisions. I'm not going to cope and saying and feel bad for people that made those decisions. Obviously, you got here in the first place. You dug your own grave. So what do you want from me? I'm not gonna. Yeah, yeah. I'm obviously a lot more focused than I've ever been. I haven't even had my whatever second cup of coffee yet. Doesn't matter. This is how I actually feel. I don't mind Bethesda, but I can't excuse. I don't mind Zenimax, but I can't excuse the decision making. Now, look, I will say this again. I get it. They were trying to make things better, but Microsoft, I think, in my opinion, was like too little, too late. You had your chances when we required you. Again, people cope too much. I don't like that Gina Bruno got fired. I don't like that Mike Finnegan, I think his name is. I can't remember. I actually I think it's Mike Finnegan. I don't like that those two got fired. I think they should have stayed. At least it would have had some structure. But again, I'm kind of indifferent. I've never met these people. I've never had an interaction with them. But anyways, I just wanted to kind of yap about this and just share my thoughts because I feel like it needs to be said. If no one else, because I've seen people online, I've DM'd a few people and everything. But if you're going, all you're going to do is cope and feel bad for these people when all of a sudden you feel bad. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I like ESO. I tolerate it. I'm not an MMO person by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want people to be fired because I think the wrong people got fired. I think there was one YouTuber that mentioned this. The wrong people got fired. I think if you were going to really fire people, fire their PR team, fire their lawyers. I think that's the real people that should be fired because they were the ones that were just basically just making those decisions. Well, I wouldn't say making those decisions, but they were making life difficult. Look back at Fallout 76, there were plenty of people that I think the wrong people got fired. That's my honest opinion. Like I said, I don't want the actual dev team to be fired. I think the PR team, the lawyers, and everything should have been the ones that have been fired. I don't think it's the dev team's fault. Now, have they said stupid stuff? Yes, of course they have. I don't think anybody has ever said a stupid thing and probably instantly regretted it, or at least somewhat regretted it, or at least regretted it later on in life. We all say stupid stuff. I have said stupid stuff. But again, when all you do is not listen to the fan base, that's when it becomes a problem. I don't know what else to tell you. Anyways, guys, that's about done me yapping. I am going to head out. Look out for another episode of Legacy of the Dragonborn. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. I'm sure there are a lot of you that feel the same exact way about Bethesda, as I have for years. Even though I started with Skyrim, I cannot excuse the behavior. Anyways, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.